Hands down, one of the most useful features we have in our Helix and hxstomp is the ability to utilize snapshots. Now, you might ask what a snapshot is. A snapshot is basically just that. It's going to be a picture of various parameter and bypass states of the blocks that we have inside of a Helix or hxstomp preset. So as we go through the different blocks, we can see that there's seemingly endless parameters that we can have depending on which blocks we're using. We can also have these blocks turned on and off. So what snapshots will allow us to do is, let's say we have an amp where on snapshot 1, we would like to have the drive level down a little bit lower, but when we switch to snapshot 2, we would like that to move. Well, what we have to do is we have to enable snapshots on the parameters that we want to change. So I can do this in a number of ways. One way is by right-clicking and rolling down to where it says snapshots. When I click that, you'll see a little camera icon come up here, and that means that this parameter is now snapshot enabled. If I didn't want to use that way, on Mac, I could do it by pressing Option and left-clicking, which will also engage or disengage snapshots on that parameter. And if we were on Windows, it would be by pressing Alt and a left click, and we can engage or disengage. We can also engage snapshots on a parameter by going to that parameter on our physical Helix, pressing the encoder for that particular parameter and twisting while we press, and that will also enable the snapshot. So that would get us into the snapshot enabled mode for that particular parameter. Well, what can we do with it once we've done that? So let's enable this, and let's say that I have this setting of 1.7 here on snapshot 1. When I switch to snapshot 2, if I come in here now and roll this up, now you'll notice that when I go back to snapshot 1, it remembers my setting for that parameter for snapshot 1, and it also remembers it for snapshot 2. So now I could have, let's say, progressively more gain as we move through snapshots. Let's say I wanted snapshot 3 to be even more gain than that. So now you'll see as I go through the different snapshots, it's going to adjust that parameter. So very, very useful. Now I can do this with multiple parameters. In fact, I can control up to 64 parameters in total within the preset. So I could come down here and enable a number of parameters here and have these all change as I go through the different snapshots, right? And I'm just making arbitrary changes for this video, but obviously when you were doing your own, you'd be very specific about how you'd want these to change, right? So now you'll notice I've got the snapshots controlling all of those parameters, and when we switch, we have an instantaneous switch that's going to be gapless when we are utilizing this in a live or studio situation. Now, there's even some less obvious things that we can do here. I could come over to the cab, for instance, and I could snapshot enable the mic position, right? As you can see, I've already done that here, and I could have it switch mic and mic position. I could come to something like the first input block. I could apply snapshots to turning the input gate on and off, or adjusting the impedance of the input. So I could have, 10 kilo ohms on one, and somewhere else have it on auto, and somewhere else have it set to 70 kilo ohms, and that is also going to switch. We could go to the end output block. We could control our final output block level as well if we so desired. All of these things are going to move together as we go through snapshots. Now, we can also have it, so let's say on snapshot 1, I wanted this reverb disengaged, but on snapshot 2, I want it turned on. It will also remember the bypass state of the different blocks that we have. Now, there are a few other things you can do that's beyond the scope of this video. I do have a more in-depth video I will link to below if you want to go and watch that. Now, what will snapshots not do? Snapshots will not allow us to change the type of block. Let's say we have the Line 6 kinetic amp here. We can't have snapshots switch to a different amp, or to a different cab, or to a different reverb, etc., etc. So we are stuck with what we have the layout of our preset as far as blocks go, but it's the parameters within those blocks that we have a massive amount of control over, and this can be one of the most powerful ways to use the Helix. I hope you enjoy the music on the way out. Links are below for any of the sounds you heard in this video.